Welcome everybody to the Cannabis Review. We've got a great show for you today. This man has been in the news a hell of a lot over the last couple of weeks and has been gaining great momentum in the Irish cannabis industry and getting some good backing after some horrendous actions by the guards in some of his stores. I'd like to welcome JP O'Brien, the owner of Little Collins. How you doing, JP?
G'day, Owen. How are you, mate? Thanks for having us on.
Not at all. Fantastic to have you on. I'm sure everybody's been looking to talk to you over the last couple of weeks with all the stuff that's kind of happened here in Ireland. Before we get into all of that kind of stuff, do you want to basically give everybody just a little overview of the story of Little Collins, how you guys started and how you got to where you are now?
Yeah, certainly. So basically, Little Collins is a family company formed by myself and my wife, Ida. We're both health-driven people. We're non-drinkers. We're sort of vegans. We really, ultimately, our story is pretty simple. We moved from Australia to Ireland to start up this business. That's 17,500 kilometres, and my wife's Irish, I'm Australian. And we just believe in providing people a choice. So a choice between, a pharmaceutical product, which is great, that everyone can get from the chemist and that's perfect, or a natural product, a natural alternative. And that's what we're here for. That wraps in nicely to our overall sort of life ethos. And here we are. We've been open since November 22, 2018. And we're into the start of 21. We've got the 2 stores and the online business. So it's great to be here.
Excellent. So that's kind of gets everybody up to speed of where we are at the moment. Can you kind of give, what has it been like for you guys over the last couple of weeks dealing with all this nonsense? For those who don't understand the situation that's happening at the moment, it's because of legislation difference between Ireland and the EU. Little Collins are selling CBD flower, which is completely legal under EU law that was passed last December. Irish law just hasn't caught up with it. What's it been like dealing with this kind of nonsense knowing you're in the right?
Yeah, well, Owen, it's, excuse me 1 second. That's fine. It's frustrating. It's simply frustrating because we wouldn't have, we did do our research and we did touch bases with all the relevant authorities before opening the business. And I think our solicitor actually summed it up quite well when I first met him after the first raids. I said, Sean, what's going on? It seems like the goalposts have shifted, I should say. And now just to catch people up, the product that we sell is herbal cannabis, okay? Now, excuse my dodgy hand. I injured it last week. It's herbal cannabis. Now, it has 0.2% or less THC, the psychotropic molecule compound in the plant, to make it legal in Europe. Now, we provide that as a natural supplement. We believe in the natural products. It is legal throughout Europe. Ireland is the only member state continuing with their kind of aggressive action towards the hemp industry. But the frustrating thing is that 2.5 years ago, for all intents and purposes, this stuff was legal in Ireland as well, because I had conversations and emails with a number of authorities. And as the solicitor said, you'd hardly be a criminal if you moved 17,500 kilometres across the world to start your criminal organisation, but then B, you decided to tell the police before you did it, because that just doesn't make sense. And after verbal conversations and this, we were assured at the beginning that it was legal in Ireland, but there is still legislation to be amended to get Ireland in tune with the European law. European law does sit above Irish law in this case. There's no doubt in the world. So the fact of that matter is, there's a bit to work out, but that's kind of where it sits at the moment. It's unfortunate because there's so much potential in the industry, but the Irish government is just lagging behind a little bit in terms of legislation. Yeah,
it seems a whole lot of pointless exercise for something that everybody knows you're in the right. Any lawyer who looks at this legislation properly would be able to, in a second, judge on your side. It's just about these guys catching up with what they're doing. And in some ways, you can understand to a degree if this is a once-off, whereas if police just saw flour and they don't know the difference between 0.2%, but consistently for it to be done when they know they're being proved to be wrong seems to be just a fool's errand at this stage.
And Owen, I'll just actually go on there because the flower itself, a lot of people don't know it's hemp, but and in the first 6-12 months, we still explain this to a lot of people, and it was very confusing for us to begin with. But let's just remember that hemp and cannabis are the same thing. They really are, but it's the difference between a non-alcoholic beer and an alcoholic beer, if you want a really generalized, simple analogy there. And the hemp that is legal in Europe is Cannabis sativa L, and the whole plant is legal. And that's what we sell. We have a whole plant philosophy. And we would, to be honest, mate, if it was a situation where over the last 2 years we were receiving public health complaints and, we weren't busy as a company, we weren't growing exponentially, the Irish public wasn't accepting hemp cannabis into their lives with glee, quite frankly. If that wasn't the situation, we'd probably walk away because we'd be like, look, the product's a bit iffy and the people don't want it and the law's a bit iffy anyway, so we'll just leave it alone. But quite the opposite is true. The Irish public are screaming out for natural alternatives. The product market fit of cannabis to Ireland is 100% symbiotic. And we just feel like the government aren't being quite transparent, let's say, in their communications. And it's unfortunate that smaller retailers like ourselves and a bunch of other retailers who I'm sure you've mentioned before, or you might even mention here, have been targeted to essentially try and crush the grassroots industry that's sprung up in the last 2.5 years. That's not fair because the grassroots industry has only one thing in mind, and that is to create a cannabis industry in Ireland that's good for everyone. We're not trying to send this stuff overseas. We're not trying to siphon profits overseas. We're not doing A, B, and C. We just want hemp and cannabis to grow in Ireland. We want local retailers selling the stuff. We want local farmers growing it. It's as simple as that. And we want adult conversations, not opaque government that does raids and then won't even comment. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's not a democracy. And quite frankly, they don't even say anything. I mean, where's Stephen Donnelly? Does Stephen Donnelly talk? Except to a few tweets every now and again. Like, where is the guy?
We sent in 100 copies of the proposal for how an industry would look in Ireland, and we received replies of pretty much everybody we sent it into, and every single one of them directed it back to Stephen Donnelly, and he's the only person that we haven't received a reply from yet. So I don't know whether it's lack of education on his behalf or what it is, but again, they're creating it.
It's a lack. Whatever it's a lack of, it's certainly a lack of speech. That's for sure.
Yeah. Come here, tell me this: a question on the Delta 8 and Delta 9. Have you seen the huge increase in sales of Delta 8 over in the States, where the territories where hemp is legal because they're getting around the laws?
I haven't actually looked into that, mate.
Okay, have a look at that. So they're basically, Delta 8 is basically a synthetic version of Delta 9 THC, which is illegal. So Delta 8 has now been copied and they're selling it. And any territory where hemp is legal, they're allowed to sell Delta 8 and it's psychoactive.
Because it's synthetic.
Yeah. So, it was just one of those ones I thought you might have come across. Just tell me this and tell me tomorrow. The industry in 10 years in Ireland, how do you see it? Do you see in 10 years' time full dispensaries on the corners like in California? Or do you see it always staying as a medical and pharmaceutical grade industry?
I'll tell you one thing. That will happen, and it'll happen to a degree. I don't know what degree, but it'll happen to a degree. Ireland will follow other countries, right? Ireland will follow other countries, but we are here, and the cannabis community is here in Ireland to make sure that we set our own path to a degree as well, because there's no point just following in other countries, because let's face it, the world's not perfect. So let's do our own thing. How do I see it in 10 years is a very good question. And I told you before the show that I think of an answer, and I still haven't thought of an answer. But, mate, it's really hard to say in a decade from now. But I will tell you how I'd hope to see it in 10 years. We would hope to see let's say, a flourishing and growing Irish cannabis industry that is fully regulated retail for adult use cannabis. So over 18s can purchase THC products. There is no reason why in 10 years we can't have a large manufacturing sector in terms of hemp cannabis and cannabis in this country, both large growers and small growers. We'd like to see micro markets in Ireland in terms of, not sure if you've seen with the breweries, you have the large breweries that pump out a lot of beer, like Guinness, for example. And then you've got a microbrewery scene where they use select ingredients and, sort of high quality practices, this sort of thing, to create a really high quality product. Now, in Australia, where I come from, mate, the microbrewery industry has grown larger than the main industry because everyone loves the micro beers, right? Because they're tasty, they're made with good ingredients and etc. the same thing can happen with cannabis. The same thing can definitely happen with cannabis. There's blue sky horizons with cannabis in Ireland. There's no reason why Ireland can't have the next Guinness on its hands in 10 years' time. But that Guinness is a cannabis bud, and it's a strain. Yeah. It's an Irish strain, and this country can stamp its place on the international scene. But we need people in charge who are brave enough and clever enough to lead this kind of new frontier, because any frontier is a new frontier, and it's the Wild West. And although cannabis was very legal on this planet just a few hundred years ago, and although cannabis grows freely on the side of the road in places like Bhutan and the pigs eat it, we do live in a state of prohibition. And so there is a lot of there's a lot of bushes to sort of whack through to get to this sort of 10-year goal, but we can do it. But we need the right people in charge, and we need to all be on the same page. We need to all be trying to achieve the same thing. If we're not trying to achieve the same thing, what will end up being achieved will be just a mix and match of everything, and it won't be any good. We all need to be on the same page. And first of all, mate, the first thing we need to do is the government need to start communicating with the industry on the ground. It's as simple as that. We are now a large company. We have 2 stores. We're opening a store in the heart of Dublin this year. So that's 3 cannabis dispensaries in Ireland hopefully before the government can even get the legislation sorted out. Make a simple amendment to the 1977 misuse of drugs. That's not that hard. Pick up the pen, get it done, and we can move forward. But obviously there's a few roadblocks in the way. We feel like we're at a critical juncture right now at the start of 2021 in terms of Ireland and cannabis. And we urge everyone to continue pushing and to continue speaking and educating about this plant, because the future is bright if we hold them to account. That's what I'm going to say.
Okay, very nice. Yeah, I think it's all about keeping up the pressure now for everybody in the industry, and realizing that we're very close to being able to have somewhat of an assembled, legalized industry over here without going too overboard with full high THC products. There's no need to go.
No, there's not. Absolutely not. The THC, yeah. So THC, there would need to be a cap, in our opinion. There should be a cap at the beginning, at the very least. And yeah, we actually set out a few thoughts there on Twitter, and it's something we should get on paper, but we've got great people like yourselves, of course, working hard on all that sort of thing, and Gino. So yeah, 100%. If it's done safely and correctly, there's no reason why everyone can't win. But yeah, let's see.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree with you more. I want to thank you very much for taking your time to chat with us today. I want to get you off. I know you're a busy man today, so it's much appreciated you coming on, and hopefully we can talk to you again in another few months when we've got a good, happy progress update, and maybe Stephen Donnelly might have stuck his head and replied to somebody's email at some stage.
That would be brilliant. That would be brilliant if he does. And lock in another chat when the judicial review is a bit further down the track, and we'll have a chat then.
Yeah, brilliant. And bring Edwidge as well the next time.
Exactly.
Look forward to chatting to you about it, all right?
Yeah, thanks a lot, Owen. We appreciate it, man.
Have a good day, bye. Bye-bye.
You too.